So what is a state machine workflow? A state machine workflow provides a modeling style with which you can model your workflow in an event-driven manner. A state machine activity contains the states and the transitions that make up the logic of the state machine. Basically, a workflow in which you can change states or stages or statuses, and your workflow process can keep moving back and forth. An example right here is the contract management state machine workflow, wherein a user uploads a contract. The contract status changes to pending department review. Basically, we are transitioning to a state in this scenario, which is a status, which is department review. The department review process begins. If the department reviewer approves it, then it moves over to legal review and the status changes to pending legal review. So we are changing the state again. On the other side, if the department reviewer asks for more information, the status changes to need more information, and this time the task gets assigned back to the requester. Then under legal review, if the legal reviewer approves it, the status changes to approved and the process ends. If the legal reviewer says they need more information, once again the status changes to need more information, a task gets created for the requester. The requester then can either resubmit and restart the process again or withdraw the entire process, and the status then changes to withdrawn and the process ends. So as you can see right here, there are different statuses through which this workflow will go through, and as we move back and forth between these statuses, the workflow is alive until the process is either withdrawn by the requester or the legal reviewer approves it. So this is an example of a state machine workflow. Now to replicate this scenario, we have a SharePoint library called Contracts Management, and in this library I have two main columns, a status column and an approval history column. The status column contains the following statuses. These are like my states. By default, when a new contract is created, the status is new. Once the approval process begins, the status changes to first pending department review. If it is approved, it moves over to legal review. If the legal reviewer approves it, the status of the contract changes to approved. If either the department reviewer or the legal reviewer decide that they need more information, the status will change to need more info and a task will be assigned back to the requester. And the requester then can either resubmit it, so the process once again moves over to the department review, or they can withdraw the entire use case. So these are my statuses or my states of my workflow. Now for the department reviewers, I have a list that I have set up because I want to dynamically read my reviewers. I have a couple of departments that I have highlighted here, IT and HR, and I have defined my reviewers accordingly right here. This is a multi-option person type column. On the other side, for legal reviewers, I've actually gone ahead and created a security group in Azure Active Directory. Here is my legal reviewers group, and for this group, I just have one member. I wanted to show how we could dynamically read our approvers as well as part of this entire process. So I've taken two cases right here. One which comes directly from a SharePoint list, the other one that comes from a security group. Also, as part of my Active Directory, every user has a department defined. So one of the AD properties in Azure is department. As you can see, I have defined my department for my users. So whenever a user uploads a contract, I can read this AD property and accordingly set the department approvers dynamically. Now that we've understood the setup associated with this workflow, let's go ahead and build the state machine workflow. In Flow, in order for me to build a state machine workflow, first thing to understand is that there is no state machine action. For folks who work with Nintex, know that Nintex has a state machine workflow action. There is no such action that exists in Power Automate. However, in Power Automate, if you head over to templates and search for state machine, there is a state machine based workflow template that has been made available. The important thing to understand is that state machine is more like a pattern that has been defined rather than an action in Flow. So I will go ahead and select the state machine workflow template. This template connects to SharePoint, so I'm going to go ahead and click continue. You can recreate this entire process for any data source of your choice. If your data source is SQL, CDS, or any other data source, you can follow the same steps. once the flow is created based on the template, let's understand what this flow is doing. So this flow gets triggered when a file is created. There is a variable that's being initialized. That's a status variable of type string. Then there is a do until branch. And the condition for do until is the status is equal to completed. That means until the status changes to completed, this loop will keep running. Now initially the status is new document. The status in that scenario is not completed. So it will go and execute the actions in the do until loop. In this loop, there is a switch condition. And as part of the switch condition, we are switching on the status. So the status to begin with is new document. That means it will move into the case for new document. And right here we can define all our actions that need to be executed for this state. Then once the state is complete, notice the variable is being reset, and this time the variable now is set as process document. That means we are changing the state, or we are transitioning the state as part of a state machine workflow. This is the last action of the switch case. So what's going to happen then is that the do until loop is going to be recalled. The status this time is process document, so it will move to the case for process document. Same scenario. You can process your actions. Status moves to completing, goes to case completing, and finally status goes to completed, and then the do until loop will end and your flow will complete. So basically just by changing this variable within the context of this pattern of do until and switch case, we can create a state machine kind of a pattern. Now what I would like to do is connect my contract management library right here. So let's go ahead and update the flow. I will pick my site. I will go ahead and pick my library, which is contract management. So I have now connected to my contract management library in SharePoint. When the workflow process begins, I would like to change my status to pending department review. So I'm setting the variable to pending department review. I will move over to the do until branch, and the first case, I will change it to pending department review. Now in this, I can define all the actions that need to take place when this case or the state or the transition in this case is pending department review. So let's go ahead and first add an action. And the first thing I would like to do is I would like to update the properties of that file. Why? Because I want to change the status to pending department review. So I'll pick my SharePoint site. I'll pick my library. The ID is going to dynamically come from the trigger. So I'm just going to select that. And the status in this scenario, I would like to change my status in this case to pending department review. Also, my approval history is where I'm going to track my entire approval process. Now, because the user has started this approval process, I would like to go and log that in my multi-line text in SharePoint. So in this scenario, I'm just adding a very simple emoji that I literally just copy and pasted from the web right here, and some text that says that the approval has been started by. Now, who has started the approval process? The person who has created this item. So it'll be my created by display name. And at the same time, I would like to go ahead and enter the date and time at which this process has started. So just put a couple of brackets right here. And because flow only works in UTC time, I would like to plug in a nice looking expression. Call the expression convert from UTC, then head over to dynamic content. I need the created date. So I will pick the created date of my contract. Now I can go and define my time zone. In my case, I'm going to pick Central Standard Time, comma, the format of my approval. I'm just going to keep it very, very simple for now. I will go ahead and click OK. And this now basically goes ahead and plugs in my expression right here. Before I start the approval action, first thing I need certain information about the person who has started this approval process by creating that contract. And what do I need first? I need the department of the person who has started this approval process. And then based on the user's department, I will go ahead and dynamically read the reviewers from the department reviewers list. So first thing is I will go ahead and utilize the Office 365 users connector. And as part of this connector, there's an action called get users profile, because I need the full profile information of the user. Now, which user are we talking about? We are talking about the created by. So you can pass either the user principal name or the email ID. I will pass the email of the person who created the contract. Now through this, I will get the department of the user. And the next thing I need is I need to go ahead and grab the departmental information. I will go ahead and add an action, and I will pick my department reviewers list. And then I will add a filter query which says the title equal to, in single quotes, I need to give the department value. Now that is going to come from get user profile, and right here we have the property for department. This will now go ahead and query the department reviewers list and get me all the reviewers associated with the department. Next step is to grab the individual reviewers and get their email addresses and semicolon separate them. Now this is something that I've already done in a previous video. I will paste the link in the description of this video. So I've gone ahead and plugged in that code right here. I have created a couple of variables, one a variable of department approvers which is of type string, and one which is an array variable of approvers. Once we get the department reviewers associated with the department of the user who has created the contract, we go and loop through the response that we receive from the get items action, grab the emails of the reviewers, put it into that array variable, and then we join that array variable by semicolon because we need the email ID semicolon separated in order to create the approval task. And finally, we get that semicolon separated email IDs of the approvers, and we put it in a variable called where department approvers. Also, I've gone ahead and put these two actions in a scope. So this is the scope for fetching the department approvers. Now on similar lines, I will also be creating an approval action for legal reviews. So I need my legal reviewers, and that I will fetch directly from this security group in Azure AD. So how do I grab this information? So there's a connector called Office 365 Groups, and an action related to this connector is called list group members. If I select this, all it needs is the ID of the group. If I head back to Azure AD, here's the object ID associated with the group. So I'm just going to copy this, head back to Flow. At the bottom, there's an option called enter custom value, and I will just plug in the group ID right here. So this will now give me all the legal reviewer security group members information. So I've gone ahead and initialized a variable of type string called legal reviewers. So right before this, I will add a select data operation. And for this, I will pick the value from the list group members. And right here, I will switch to the text mode and write an expression that's going to be item question mark in single quotes mail. I'm going to click OK, and then for my legal reviewers, I will once again go to expression, and this time join expression, go to dynamic content, pick the output from select and join it with a semicolon. So all I'm doing right here is getting the semicolon separated email IDs of my group members, which is a security group coming from Azure AD. So we already added one action, which was updating the status. Now let's begin the approval process. So my first action is going to be start and wait for an approval. Now for the approval type, I will pick custom responses and wait for one response. So the moment I receive the first response from any of my approvers, that decision will be considered final. And because I've picked custom responses, I can go ahead and define my own response types that I'm expecting from my approvers. So I have two response types that I have added. The title of my approval would be department review for the name of the document that is currently under approval. The assign to would be very simple. I already have it. It's in my variable of department approvers that is being generated dynamically. So I'm going to pick this. Now the next step is I would like to check the output of my approval. So I will add a condition, and the condition is going to check to see the outcome property of this approval action. Now, in my scenario, the outcome will be the custom responses that I have added. So I'm just going to copy this exactly as is, and I'm just going to paste it right here. So now there can only be two outcomes. It's either approved or they need more information. Now, if they approve it, we need to change state. If they say we need more information, we need to change state. Remember, this is a state machine workflow. The process is not going to end. It's going to keep on going ahead. And that is going to happen by just setting this status variable. So let me just pick this, drag it, and put it in the yes clause for now. So if this is approved, I'm going to change this to pending legal review because this will move ahead in the process. And on the other side of the condition, let's go ahead and set that status variable again to need more information. Now another thing what I would like to do prior to the states transitioning, update the properties of my file. So as you can see, I have plugged in the update file properties action. So when the outcome of my department review is approved, I'm transitioning the state by setting the status variable to pending legal review. But what happens to the status? Well, the status should change to pending legal review. Also, for the approval history, what I would like to do is first grab the approval history information from this action, which is update file properties. So I'm just going to pick this. That's the value of the history that I currently have. And on top of this, I'm going to add some additional comments right here, which is that this has been approved department reviewer. And I can give the name of the reviewer right here. So if I pick the responses approver name, and bear in mind, this will now put an apply to each loop purely because the responses object that the approval action provides is an array. I know that there will only be one approver because my approval action itself says just wait for one response. So this is not an issue. I can get the approval response date and time, put it in here, check to see how long the approval action has taken. All of this information we've already executed as part of the other videos of the approval cookbook series. A link to all of those videos will be posted in the description of this video, so do go ahead and check that out. On the other side, if the department reviewer has asked for more information, so I would need to change the status in that case to need more information. And for my approval history, I'm just going to go and grab this, paste the same thing right here. The only thing I'm going to change here, so I'm going to say need more information by the department reviewer. This will also add that same for loop because it's the same logic. So this now completes the pending department review case. Now for the pending legal review case, the process would be very, very similar. All I need to do right here now is start the approval action. So the differences here is I have the same approval action right here with custom responses. Legal reviewers can either approve it or ask for more information. The assign to this time, I have gone ahead and picked the legal review variable, which is a variable that contains the list of legal reviewers coming in from my Azure AD security group. I will check to see the outcome of the approval. If it is approved, the status will change to approved because I want to complete this process. Otherwise, the status would change to need more information. And now, same steps as before. If the legal reviewer approves it, I will then go ahead and set the status of my file to approved. Now, I also needed the existing approval history, and the way I grabbed that is I added one extra action on the top that says get file properties. And I already have the unique ID from the trigger, so I've just gone ahead and grabbed that. So this is basically performing a query again to get the latest values associated with the file properties. And I just put the approval history right here. So that's why I added this one extra action right here. And on the other side, all we have as a status is going to need more information. So this now completes the pending legal review case. And finally, we have the need more information case. So in this case, I have the approval action. And for this, I have two custom responses, resubmit for review or withdraw. The title in this case for the original requester is need more information for contract and the name of the contract. The assign to would be the created by email coming from the trigger, which is when a file is created. So I'm going to pick this. This will now assign it to the original creator. And then the original creator has two options right here. So we'll go ahead and add an action. We will add a condition to check the outcome. And if the outcome is resubmit for review, that means we need to start the department review again. So I will update the properties of my file once again first. We will update the status to pending department review. And also the status variable, we will change this to pending department review. Why? Because we want the state to change again. Of course, for the approval history, I need the last history. So I will add an action, which will go and grab the latest properties of my file. And in my condition right here for my approval history, all I need is the latest approval history, which I'm going to get from this action that I just executed. So I'll just go ahead and grab that. And because the process has been resubmitted, so I'm going to say resubmitted for review by the creator. And that now completes this part of the process. If I want to plug in the commands of the approval, remember every approval action also gives you commands. Put the comments right here under brackets. I can search for comments, and this is the responses comments that I can plug in right here. And of course, if I do that, it will apply the for loop. Now on the no side of the branch, which is if the original requester has withdrawn the request, we'll go ahead and change the status to withdrawn. Because I want to complete this entire flow, what I will do is go ahead and set that status variable right here. I will go ahead and change the status to completed. Remember, this is just a variable that I'm using in my workflow. Remember, the do until loop ends when the status is equal to completed. And this now completes my need more information case as well. So this is the information that we have for the pending department review. Now note that the pending department review can also be re-triggered. If any of the reviewers mark it for need more information, then the original requester has the option of resubmitting. So I need to have the entire approval history right here as well. Just added that get file properties action again right here. Okay, so we've got this. So now that my flow is complete, I will go ahead and save this flow. Now let's go ahead and test this entire process. So I've gone ahead and uploaded a contract document, and notice the first thing is that the status is currently new because that's the default value of any document that gets uploaded right here. And the moment a document gets uploaded, flow is going to trigger when a new file is created. And the moment it triggers, the status here should change to pending department review. Now notice right here, the flow has triggered, the status has changed to pending department review, and the approval history has also gone ahead and logged the first message that the approval has been started by Reza at this date and this time. Now, for my account, the department is IT, and for IT, the approvers are James and Sarah. So what should have happened right now is James and Sarah should have received the first approval notification. So here I'm logged in as the user persona James. James has received that approval task. It says that the department review for my document, which is called Controso contract, that has been requested by Reza, and here's a link directly to that item. If I select this, this will directly open my document, which is currently under review. And as the department approver, I can now take my decision, which is I can either approve this or I can say I need more information. Now, if I approve this, this will move ahead to the next level of approval, which is my second level, which is the legal review. So let's go ahead and actually approve this. It looks good. I'm going to click on submit. Now, the moment the first reviewer takes the decision, what's going to happen is the process is going to move ahead. The state machine now is going to change its state or the status. If I head back to my document library, you will note that the status has changed, and also the approval history has logged more information. So if I select this document and go to details right here in SharePoint, you will note that here's my full approval history. The approval was started by Reza, and then the department reviewer, which is James Taylor, has gone ahead and approved this. And here are the comments that James Taylor put in, which looks good. So everything's being tracked. The entire history is right here for me. And right now this has gone to legal review. The legal reviewer comes into picture. And the legal reviewers are users who are coming from my Azure AD security group. In my scenario, the only member in this group is Reza. So let's see if Reza has received the legal review notification. And here I'm signed in as Reza. Here is my legal review approval task. And I can either approve this or I can ask for more information from the user. Now, if I approve this process completes. It's more like a linear multi-staged workflow if I go ahead and approve this. But maybe I need more information from the requester. So I will go ahead and say need more information. So maybe the contract document is missing a signature. So I'm going to say the contract is missing signature, and I'm going to submit this. Now I've said need more information. What's going to happen this time is the status is going to change to need more information, and so is the state. So this time, if we head back to SharePoint, notice right here that the status has changed to need more information. Once again, the approval history has all the information for me. And if we look at the approval history, here's all the information. The approval started, went to department review, and then the legal reviewer, which was Reza Dorrani, said that he needs more information. And here's the comments that Reza has put in. Of course, all of this information, I can send notifications back and forth as well. I can use the send an email action in my state machine approval process and make sure that the original requester, the approvers, everybody's notified in the process. When it goes to need more information, the original requester, which in this case is Reza, would now receive a task. So here's the task that Reza receives. Now Reza has two options. He can either withdraw this entire process and say, you know what, I want to close out this process. Maybe my contract is just not right. I need to go back, rework it, and submit a completely new process. Or Reza can go ahead and make the changes. Maybe I go ahead, I make changes in that document, I update certain properties. I'm going to resubmit it for review and say, you know what, I've gone ahead and added the signature for the contract. I'm going to click on submit. Now, the moment I do this, what's going to happen is the status is once again going to change to department review. And notice right here, back in SharePoint, this is once again changed to pending department review. And if you look at the approval history, once again it has said that the approval has been started by Reza. So I have the entire previous history, and once again Reza has restarted it because he's resubmitted it for the review process. And now what happens next? It goes back to my department reviewers, which is James or Sarah. Here's James once again, he gets that same approval task, and once again, let's say he says, looks good to me. James approves it. The moment James approves it, it's going to be recorded in the system. The status is going to change from pending department review to pending legal review. And there you go. It's now changed to pending legal review. I've got the approval history log right here. And Reza is playing the role of the legal reviewer. So this time, let's say Reza goes ahead and approves this. Says the contract is complete, submits it. And once this information is logged, the status this time changes to approved, and the workflow process now is complete. So here you go. The status is approved. The entire approval history is tracked right here. I am maintaining it in a multi-line text column in the context of the item. If required, this can be maintained in a separate list or a data source as well. Now, if you want to look at the flow in action, if I go back right here, this will now show me the entire information of my flow. The main crux here of this flow is the do until branch. So notice it has ran 5 times. That means there were 5 processes that had executed. And you can go through each and every one of them. Remember, I'm showing 1 of 5 right here in my for loop was the pending department review. So here's the case for the pending department review. I can go ahead and look at all the actions that took place during the pending department review. I can look at the outcome of my approver. I can look at the approval action. I can look at the outcome of my approval and look at what happened during the process. Then it moved on to the second stage. So all I have to do right here is just click on next. This now takes me to state number 2, which was the legal review. Then after the legal review, because the legal review rejected, it went to state number 3, which was need more information, back to the requester. The requester resubmitted it. Where did it go? It went back to the department review. The department reviewer then went ahead and approved it. So it went where? It went to the legal review. And finally, the legal reviewer completed it. That's why this do until loop completed and I don't have any additional branch. So I can go and look at the entire process right here. And this completes the state machine workflow pattern. A very powerful pattern that you can leverage based on a template that has been provided. Remember, this is a state machine workflow, so you can move back and forth between the states. So this process could have just kept going back and forth between my department reviewers, legal reviewers, and my requester. And of course, you can change the state based on your use case. In my case, I went from the requester to department to legal. Maybe your scenario is different. You want to go from legal to department, or maybe there's another approval process you would like to put in place. So you can go ahead and execute all those actions. If you like this video, then do comment and let me know about it. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.